Welcome to another episode of Table for Two. As you can see, we're back to Alexandra. James sadly is back in hospital with having more tests, but he's fine. He says thank you for everyone for their prayers and their good wishes, but he's doing well, believe me. He's just waiting to come out again and join us back on the show.
Hello, so viewers. Back. Thank you, Alex. We really wish James will come back soon. The last episode was absolutely awesome, so come back soon, James.
It was really good, James, honestly. Okay. And I found something out. Kazantzakis wasn't excommunicated officially or formally. So yeah, a bit of news there, which we didn't realise at the time. So he wasn't excommunicated. Now we're going to start off with our Sierra Leone news as normal, which you're aware of all the Sierra Leone news going on. We have the well being dug in Goderich Village, an area of Freetown, very poor area of Freetown. They're still digging. They're still coming across massive boulders. In fact, just yesterday I sent another £200 to buy a ton of charcoal. They have to put the charcoal in the hole. The hole at the moment, it must be about 30 foot deep. It's a really, really deep hole. So they put the charcoal, light it, seal the hole, and then once all the charcoal's burnt off, then they obviously unseal it, and then they can go ahead and start breaking up the boulders. They have got tons of rocks, bits of rock left over, which they will use at some point for something. So that's the Goderich news, Sierra Leone. We're also preparing suitcases with medicine, with writing and colouring pencils. We've had a donation of, do you know how many pencils we received?
Oh.
3,000.
Oh, wow.
I counted 3,000 colouring pencils, which we're going to send to Goderich Village where the well's being dug. We want the kids there to have something that they otherwise would never receive. Plus we're going to send boxes of exercise books, which we've got tons of at the moment. So there's a lot of stuff going for Goderich Village. Now about a month or so ago, I reported on David, our youngest baby David. Now this is really interesting news. Now I found out his middle name is Messi, which was in the video we sent, David Messi. His brother Vincent, his middle name is Ronaldo. So they have two sons, Messi and Ronaldo. I'm not sure what they're going for there, but maybe eventually they'll have a decent football team. Two boys in, another 9, and they're getting there.
Who would have known? And Vincent is my godson as well.
I know, yeah, you didn't know that.
I only knew his baptismal name.
He's actually Ronaldo, the footballer, the Portuguese footballer. So that's our Sierra Leone news in a nutshell. So it's the well being dug, and we're going to send the suitcases with the medicines, pencils, exercise books. We still need money though. We still need funds to come in. The well is costing us more money than we expected, especially if I'm sending £200 a time now for charcoal. So please, if you're giving to the GoFundMe page, please continue.
And spread the news. I think that's really important.
Most definitely, most definitely. Now, I was thinking back to the earlier shows I did with James and the format. We would start with Sierra Leone, then do health news or about disabilities, and then go on to the church news and community news. So I'm going back to the original format, which is a subject you've probably heard me talk about loads and loads of times. So I'm going to talk about dyspraxia. Now, dyspraxia is classed as a specific learning difficulty, as with dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia. So it's a specific learning difficulty. Okay. Now, if you break up the two sections, the dys and the praxi, it means difficulty in an action. So it sounds as though it's something physical, but it's not musculoskeletal at all. I firmly believe it's the process in performing an action. So as an example, if someone throws a ball at me, my eyes see the object, and then my eyes send a message to my brain sends a message to my hand saying catch, so I catch it cleanly. Now someone with dyspraxia, what they might do is they might fumble it or drop it. Not necessarily so, but they might fumble it or drop it. Their hands work perfectly well, but what it is the thought process involved in catching is severed at some point. If the ball is thrown quickly and they haven't got time to think about the process, they might snatch at it and catch it cleanly. Right. Because that thought process hasn't had time to be severed. So dyspraxia is a specific learning difficulty and not something physical. Even though I've read books about it, and some of the books are absolutely awful, I just tell people, avoid books on dyspraxia. Just look at the child, look at the person, and learn from them rather than what you read in books, because each person will be different as well. Now, through my research and through assessing students with disabilities at university level, I found 4 key areas. So with dyspraxia, there's bearings, they're important, starting points, processes, and then there's injustices. So they're the 4 key areas. So I've spoken to countless students, a lot who have not been diagnosed with dyspraxia, but I've asked about those key areas, and if they prove positive, I've sent them off to have a test for dyspraxia. They have found out they have dyspraxia, then they get the support they need at university, the study skill support, which is one of the most important items of support you can receive at university. So I'm going to go through the 4 sections now. Now, bearings. So in a classroom setting, where the child sits. So if there's rows of seats and they're sitting in the middle, surrounded, they can't get their bearings. They feel uncomfortable. They start fidgeting. They can't concentrate. They can't focus. They might be disruptive. Now, if they're on the edge by the wall, that becomes a bearing. If they're at the front by the board, by the teacher, it becomes a bearing. At the back, again, a bearing. If they're in the middle, they have their friends next to them, the friends become the bearings. So they can cope. But if their friends aren't there or sit elsewhere, then once again they start fidgeting and they can't focus. So bearings are very, very important. So another example, if there's a party or a get-together and they walk into a big room, they won't stand in the middle of the room where people are walking around because they can't get their bearings. They'll start off by a pillar, by the wall, by the bar, anywhere where they can, at a fixed point, they get their bearing, they feel comfortable, then they can start functioning. And quite often I found that if someone suddenly goes into their face, say hello to them, they back away. And people go, oh look, poor social skills, which is a trait of dyspraxia, which isn't really. The poor social skills are in the person who's gone into their face to say hello and not giving them that space so they can regain their bearings. So other things that are bearings, things they wear. They might find, or you might find, that they have clothes in the wardrobe, styles of clothes, colours that they've had for years and years and years, and they have the same clothes, same style, same trainers. Yeah. They find it very hard to throw these things away. These clothes become bearings. I've assessed young women with ponytails, and when the hair's tied back there, even if I pull at the back of my hair there, it's quite soothing and comforting. So if they're in a new environment, a foreign environment, somewhere they haven't been before, and the hair's tied back, and they have that sense, that security blanket feel, then they can function, they can cope, and they can concentrate. So in fact, I found that years later, there's an acupuncture point there, right at the back of the head, which is an interesting place to stick a needle, but apparently it's quite soothing. So that's another bearing. A watch. Now, I've had students with watches that have been broken, but they still wear the watch. That watch becomes the bearing. Especially those straps that when they come undone, they hang there, they don't fall off. Because they don't want to not lose their watch, but they don't want to lose the bearing. So they have these straps. I'm not saying everyone who wears those watches has dyspraxia, by the way. So don't worry if you're wearing that watch. It's a practical reason as well as dyspraxia. Now, I've had students who lived at home, and their rooms have been tidy. Others have had a messy bedroom, so either end of the spectrum. Now, the ones with the messy bedroom, it's always been an organised mess. Even though it might be untidy, they know where everything is. And then I've asked them, what happens if mum, dad, granny, someone tidied your room up for you? They say, I hate it. Why? They say, I just can't find anything. But it's more than that. It's because their bearings have been shifted. In order to regain their bearings, they have to put everything as they had it, and then they can study again. Then they can function again. So that's more bearings. Simple things like cans of food in the shelves. They have them in a certain order. Sometimes in an OCD-like fashion, but it's not OCD. Yeah, it's because they know that if they have this in this order, they open the cupboard, they find it, and then they make themselves some food. An interesting one is toilet rolls. Now, those who have the holders on the wall at home, toilet rolls can roll this way or over the top that way. Okay. Now, I often ask students with dyspraxia which way they have it. They said, "Oh, it's this way." I said, well, "What if it's the other way?" They go, "No, it has to go this way." I said, "But it doesn't matter if it rolls this way or that way. It works the same. The toilet, no, but it has to be that way." So that's a really, even small things like that can be a big part of their life. In fact, I had a student, which I'd go and teach. She had a few bearings. One of them was she had an ornament, like a horse ornament by the computer with a small clock that didn't work. And I say, but the clock doesn't work. Why do you need it? She goes, oh, but you know, I just like it there. So she'd leave the room to make coffees, for example, and then I'd move the ornament slightly. She'd come, she'd sit, she'll put it back again, and then we'll continue the lesson because it's her bearing. And then next lesson I can't go along. She leaves the room, I move it slightly, she'll come back, put it back, and then we'll continue that because that is a big bit. Even though the clock, which is the reason for having it on the table, doesn't work, it has to be in a certain place so she can function. After about the 5th lesson I went to teach her, the ornament had gone. She put it in the shelf up high where I couldn't reach it, but that still remained the bearing, but I couldn't reach it now. So bearings are so important. And every so often I say, I just need to go to wash my hands in the bathroom. I turn the toilet roll to go the other way, and then she'll message me after, Alex, why did you move the toilet roll? I say, it works the same way, but that's just to test and to show her. So it's not to torture students, because I'm sure it would be very nice. But yeah, there's a lot of things that act as bearing. Sitting where you sit in the sitting room, where you sit at the dining table, the people you're with, your partner, your friends, are all bearings. When they shifted or lost, you become lost as well. So that was that now bearing. Now starting points is the next point. As you can see, there are loads of notes for today's session
it's
episode.
Very interesting, and I think working in private boarding schools, for me it's really interesting to find that out, and I really hope that every boarding school has a team that is able to identify these things and to offer the support that is needed for each student. We'll send
them the show.
Yes.
Free of charge.
Yes.
And let them know. So listen to what Alex says. Okay, now, so bearing. Now starting points. So we'll go to the classroom setting. So a child's just come into class, teacher starts talking about a new lesson, and they haven't grasped the initial concept. They can be lost throughout the lesson because they haven't got that starting point. They might wake up 15 minutes late. They're out of sync for the first part of the day. They might miss the first 5 to 10 minutes of a film. They find it really hard to get into the film unless they put it back to the start. So starting points are very, very important. Now, processes is a big part of dyspraxia. So it's following a process from beginning to end. If it's severed at any point, they become lost. So say they're in a lesson, lecture, classroom, GCSEs, and the teacher then halfway through the lesson, so the student's really into the lesson, halfway through the teacher says, oh, last weekend, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I'm going on holiday next week. They've now just cut the process out an unnatural place, and it shouldn't have stopped there. That student has now become lost. Processes can also work with when they're speaking, if they're interrupted. So if you interrupt someone with dyspraxia, it doesn't always happen, but they can then become lost. But if you're saying something and they suddenly have a thought and they want to get it out, they'll interrupt you, because they know that if they wait for you to finish your process, they'll lose their process. So if you're interrupted constantly, that's one of the reasons why. So processes are very important, even with films. They're watching a film, really into the film, they caught the beginning. Someone walks in. I'm not saying who the someone is. Someone walks in. What's happening? Let's discuss this section of the film, right? And I'm not saying I've got dyspraxia, but it breaks that process of watching the film. Presentations are a process. 5 slides into it, someone stops to ask them a question, they now become lost. What I used to tell my students was, when that happens, practice beforehand from slide 1 to 10, for example, then go from 6 to 10, then go from 2 to 10, then go. So have a different starting point each time.
See, it's so important to have these tools and for them to know how to navigate it.
I know, like I said, send the YouTube video to your school colleges. Now, injustice is the last part of this. Now, some dyspraxia can find it hard to suffer an injustice. So if they're blamed for something they haven't done, they might fly off the handle, they might get angry or upset because it wasn't their fault. If they write an essay and they spent 3-4 weeks writing this essay and their friend spends 2 days and their friend gets a higher mark than them, it's an injustice. I think, why? I killed myself writing this essay. Why did you get a higher mark? So injustices are very hard to deal with, and that can cause low moods, they can sink into depression as well. But if dealt with, or if they recognise why they're feeling like this, it does help them in a big way. Also, raise voices. During assessments, I suddenly speak in a louder voice to the students, see their reaction, their eyes would like open up, or they go backwards, they get away, and I said, look, what's happening now is subconsciously you're saying, why is he shouting at me? What have I done? It's an injustice. So a lot of these can also stem from things that happened in their childhood. So it's not necessarily because I'm shouting, it's because they're thinking of things that happened many years ago. They also find it very hard to lie. People with dyspraxia, I've found. They take the side of an underdog during an argument. That's another thing. And they'll shift the blame. So if they're late for a meeting, for a lesson, the bus was late. There was someone in front of me taking so long to get in the bus. Oh, there were roadworks, or there was this. So they did everything they could to get there on time, but all the other factors involved prevented it happening. So they're there to blame, not themselves. And then they might make undiplomatic comments, a biting remark. So it's either black or white for people with dyspraxia. Now this is not every single person with dyspraxia, but the ones that I've spoken to do have this particular characteristic. They're either always on time, always late. If they're always late, they accept they're going to be late. That takes away the stress of being late. If they're always on time, it's because they don't want to be stressed at being late. So a lot of the things people with dyspraxia do is to take out the stress of being late, the stress of not getting a high mark for an essay, the stress of not being able to follow the lesson. So it's trying to reduce the stress in their lives. I found that students with dyspraxia have a higher stress levels than students with dyslexia because they have the bearing, starting points, the process, the injustice to deal with. But people with dyspraxia, what I found is they can excel in anything they put their mind to. They can be top of their class. They'll only do the things that they need to do. If they don't need to do it, why kill the brain cells? Yeah. So they'll put as much effort as they can into performing a single task and doing it to the best of their ability, which is often very high. So anyone with dyspraxia, it's not a negative thing. If you read about it, it does sound negative at times, but you can excel in anything you put your mind to. That's the message there for anyone with dyspraxia. I mean, there's so much more to say on dyspraxia, but time's short in the lesson. But we can cover other points as well the next lesson, I think, the next episode as well.
Yeah, okay? Absolutely. I saw you doing this at a social dinner with one of my former colleagues from the company, and it was so revealing for him to understand what was wrong all these years. That actually nothing is wrong with him, but you literally diagnosed him with dyspraxia by having a long talk with him. It was just marvelous seeing it in front of my eyes, and so many people get misdiagnosed.
But also knowing someone understands you. Because if you feel misunderstood, that's the worst part of it. Because you feel alone. So knowing someone, actually, that's me. That's why I fly off the handle. That's why I get angry. That's why I do this. And then all of a sudden they realise there's nothing majorly wrong with them, but it's actually a plus in many instances. So that's how dyspraxia.
We can only wish more people have access to your advice. So.
Well, yeah.
They should contact you.
Contact me. I'll leave my email address at the end of the show. If anyone wants to contact me ask about dyspraxia, about their children, about their friends and relatives, please do. If I can answer the questions, I will. Now, our next section is what we were involved in, the Nicaea festival, which is hence the mugs again. There you go. Look, we're back to the mugs again. Now. We went to Shrewsbury for a second time, so we were there the week before. We went again the week after. It's a lovely drive up, so it's no big deal for us. It's a beautiful place as well. Now, the first service was the Vespers at the 318 Holy Fathers with, I don't know how many, about 20 priests, I think it was, from all over.
Yes, it was.
And we went for the ordination of Father Bandalemon a year or so ago. How did you find it this time, the second time around?
It's so nice to see that the community has grown, first of all. It's so much more diverse as well. Plus the space, so this is like a small historical church, beautiful. I was impressed first time, but now they have an extra area for the community where we could have a meal. They even branded it as a taverna,
yeah.
which was absolutely charming to see. And I got to connect with members of the community, such as the presbyteres as well, who are doing so much work together with Father Stephen and Father Panteleimon Maxfield. It's a really close-knit community, and you could see how involved everyone is in raising up this community.
Yeah. Now, then on Sunday we had the service where there was a bishop of Shrewsbury. There was another bishop and an Anglican priest. Sadly, I can't remember the name of the other two, but it was it was great that we had the Anglicans, the Catholics, and the Orthodox together, especially on such a massive festival with the Nicene Creed.
Yeah, he was remembering that 1700 years ago, actually, both the West and the East met together before the schism, right? To put the principles of the creed into place.
Yeah, I think a lesson to be learned at the moment with different groups fighting. Now, the items you see here, the Nicaea mug. I was given this. Now put this red ribbon on just to wind some people up. It wasn't awarded to me. In fact, this is just so I don't lose it in the house, to be honest. It's gold-plated cross with Nicaea 2025 on the back. Now, they have silver versions of this online, which we're going to put all the details behind us as well. But also online, I'm going to go through a massive list now, and you're going to have to tell me which one of these is not for sale online. Okay, this is all on the Nicaea 2025 online shop. Now, silver cross.
Should be there.
Byzantine chant book, icons, clear cases for mobile phones, iPhone and Samsung.
I think there would be.
Okay. Nicaea and Shrewsbury Orthodox mugs. Yep. T-shirts.
Yes, I saw them.
Pin badges.
Pictures. Yeah.
All right. Now these are the ones that you have to really think about: purse, duffel bag, canvas, tote bag, hard-backed journal, and a teddy bear. Which
Maybe the teddy bear is not in the shop?
No, it's not in the shop. Father Panteleimon, I think you should add a teddy bear with a t-shirt on it. I think that would be a really good seller. That's my advice.
But it's lovely, and especially the crosses, they were made in someone's
These were designed, I don't know if the camera can catch that, but these were designed by a guy there, in his shed. And these are made in his shed.
Fantastic.
So I've got that version, which is a present which I'll cherish always. Now we had Sunday of All Saints at All Saints Cathedral. Okay, now time is short, I can see, so we're going to have to really go through these. Now, His Eminence was at the church. Now I got to read the Lord's Prayer once again in Sierra Leone Creole. What made it extra special was who joined us for the Baniyeri?
The mayor of Camden, who is from Sierra Leone.
I know, it was amazing.
How is that possible?
So the new mayor of Camden, councillor Eddie Hanson, is from Sierra Leone.
Congratulations to you, Mr. Eddie Hanson, the new mayor of Camden.
His father, I think it's his father, and his grandfather were mayors before him in a city called Bo. Bo is a university town in Sierra Leone, and he's now the mayor of Camden. So I was overjoyed when I heard the new mayor of Camden is from Sierra Leone, Mr Eddie Hanson, and obviously we had to be there for it. Sadly, he couldn't make the service, but he was there for the Baniyeri, for the festival afterwards. And James, there was face painting. So James always asked about the face painting. So it was there. So there was face painting. They were doing tattoos with glitter. Now there was Mahallebi from Kyria Andrulla. The reason I'm mentioning Mahallebi is because as well as the Lugmades competition, I now have a Mahallebi competition. So Kyria Andrulla, you're top at the moment. Okay, so well done there. There's the DJ with the old music. The songs that I was brought up with.
Absolutely
obviously,
loved it.
Yeah, he was really good. There was dancing. But then there was Jimmy's family barbecue. So many churches nowadays, rather than having the committee, usually the men of the committee will say, doing the barbecues, they outsource it. So these people are linked to the church in some way or other. But Jimmy had his two sons there with him. The older one was doing some bekigo, and he won the brilliant prize of that giant teddy as big as him. When you see how big the teddy is compared to him, you'll wonder how they got it home. So that was all saints. So we had such a good time there. Now we also had the Cypriot Wine Festival. I'm going to go through these very quickly. So at the Cypriot Wine Festival, Archway Metalworks were there again as always. They have helped the Zinc House kids of Sierra Leone so much. Their barbecue is still being used, and I'm sure they're going to help in other ways too. That's Archway Metalworks. There was the new store. I'm not sure if it's called Theo or Theo. The icons and the books, the books for children, the colouring books. I even
purchased a few.
So yeah, so there was a new stall. I think it's a new business that's out. I think it's an online business. Theo, Theo. We'll try and find some details of that as well. And then Stelios from the community centre. He did amazing souvlaki.
Yum.
Yes, and the service there is always top with, especially with Stelio. He really is good at what he does. Taste of Cyprus, bakery and patisserie. Now they're now top of the league when it comes to the Lugmades competition because they're making Lugmades obviously. So they offered me a tray to test. That's what it wasn't a bribe.
Of course.
They also gave me a guba as well, which was hidden under the tray, but it wasn't a bribe. Okay, so no, they're top of the table.
Yeah.
Anyone who's watched the show always knows that the next place I go to always becomes top of the table. So we'll see where we're off to next. Are we off to? Yes, St. Haralambos. That's in the next show. Let's see.
That's a challenge on.
We'll see if they go top. Now, entertaining us were Elizabeth Chapman. Great selection of Greek songs. George Theodorou. He's. I like it when he sings because he always looks so nervous just before, and then he belts out these tunes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you know he had a sore throat?
Oh.
He had a sore throat, but you couldn't tell.
I couldn't tell.
No one could tell. No, George, if you watch this, I hope you watch this. No, you were excellent. We really enjoyed your songs there. And then Theo Lucas was back from last year as well. So the reason he's back, obviously, he knows what he's doing. He's good as well. Dancing, Spasta. The new dance group. I was trying to find a way of translating Spasta, but in this term to Alexandra, it was different. Spasta means break them, but they're not saying break. It's an exclamation of some sort. I'll ask someone who will be able to explain better about Spasta. Yeah. And then there was Vima, who you went to a few weeks back.
Great.
They were on the Friday night keeping us entertained, getting everyone dancing. Costantino, honestly, he's brilliant at this.
Yes.
People who were sitting here just getting them up, let's start, and they're all dancing with him. He does so well with this. So that was our Cypriot Wine Festival. It was a big success again. They changed a few things around to last year, as you noticed. They had more tables and chairs inside in that breakaway room. They didn't have stalls in the breakaway room other than the face painting and the children's area. There was the pinball machine as well, very, very popular. There was obviously the wine tasting as always. There was an arts and craft. There was one they were doing the lace. They were doing the crochet as well, in the way they did it in the villages in the old days. Probably the way your granny did it.
Yeah, definitely.
Your Vlach relatives would have been doing this. Okay, now, two things we need to mention coming up. There's the Jamaica Day Extravaganza 2025. We went to that last year. We were amazed by it. We loved it. It's a family event. It's at the New River Rugby Field N22. That's on Sunday, 3rd of August. from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then there's a Brotherhood Garden Party with Asteraghi on the 7th of September. We went to that as well last year. That's from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. So you've got the Jamaica Day Extravaganza. That's on the 3rd of August at the New River Rugby Field, N22. That's opposite New River Stadium. And then there's the Brotherhood Garden Party, which was a massive success last year. It will be again this year with Asteraghi and Hellenic, our national treasure, entertaining everyone on the 7th of September between 1 and 5.
I should be there.
Most definitely. It seems like this show's just gone just like that today, so I really think it's like 5 minutes long, but it's been a full 30 minutes. Thank you everyone for joining us again. I do apologise for rushing it at the end. Just keep praying please for James. We want him back because we want the Goba special as well with James. So thank you very much, and thank you Alexandra for making it special again for us.
Thank you for having me.